Welcome back, gamers. This is Cyrus on Rise of Kingdoms. Today we're going to do a video on Peacekeepers. So the previous video was setting yourself up with a rage engine for your commanders. Today we're going to go ahead and take that to the next step and combine the rage engine with one of the combat styles. So that would be either the PvP or PvE. Today we're going to focus on the PvE. And so the best way to get started on that is just go ahead and go into Commanders. Inside here you're going to see your talents, and we're going to go ahead and Boudica being one of my primaries. She's a peacekeeping commander. If you go into her talents, you're going to see that I've got a little bit invested in this one. In fact, I've got an extra 3 points here that I don't need. But it's not worth 1,000 gems at this point to worry about, because I have my rage engine already established, like we discussed in our previous video. And so now what we want to do is we want to go through this and explain why these points are valuable. So the first path that I take with my Peacekeepers is I actually come straight down here and get these 2 talents. And the reason for it, this one is just March Speed, which is amazing, always good to get your commanders moving. You follow that up with extra defense. It's needed on the way there. But once you get here, reduces action point cost to attack barbarians and other neutral units by 10. So this is all neutral units. So this will be your barbarian tribes that are roaming around, as well as forts. So if you're leading a rally with this commander, instead of 150 action points for the rally, you're only going to be spending 140. That's a lot of value. Alright? That action point is a resource that is very valuable, right? Because you only get so much of it. Over here, increases experience obtained from defeating barbarians and other neutral units by 15%. So what makes the peacekeeping tree so powerful is that it is a fantastic way of leveling up your extra commanders, right? So your gatherers, your PvP, your garrison, these commanders right here you put behind a peacekeeper when they're doing your barbarian roams, and they're going to get that extra experience, not only from the skills of the commander themselves, but also from any talents that they happen to have. So in here you got the reduction of action point by 10. You're going to follow that up with 15% extra experience points, which is fantastic. Alright. One other one that I really promote is right here, Trophy Hunter. Alright. So what this does is, after using action points to defeat barbarians, you gain an extra 15 level 1 resource pack Cs. This is at 3 points, containing 1,000 food, 1,000 wood, 750 stone, or 500 gold chosen at random. So what you're looking at here is being able to turn your barbarian hunting commander into a gathering commander. Resource is king in this game. You have to be able to keep those resources flowing. So being able to turn your commander from a PvE into a PvE and a resource gatherer in the same amount of time that your gatherers go out and gain 200,000 to 400,000 resources, your peacekeeping commander can go out and gain close to, if not the same amount, thanks to this trophy hunter. Alright, so if you look over here, you're going to see a couple of different abilities. Killer Instinct, which is increasing your normal attack by an additional 9%. Very solid quantity of a boost there. That's 2-3 pieces of equipment in the green zone. So that's something to really consider. And it's not just a single unit type like you would get with, say, some of the other trees in the red, your archer, your cavalry, your infantry. It's across all types. Alright, it is specific to barbarians and other neutral units though. So that's going to be your guardians for the altars. That's going to be your barbarian tribes. That's going to be your forts. All of that is going to get this extra 9% to the normal attack damage. Right here, Domination increases skill damage dealt to barbarians and other neutral units by 15%. So it's a little more specific. You're only going to get that off your skill damage. But if you've set your rage engine already, this is incredibly high value. Alright, moving on to some of these that I don't have. When this commander launches a rally attack, all damage dealt to barbarians and other neutral units is increased by 3%, so that would go up to 9% with the 3 points with this mighty force. That's not bad. All damage, that's your skills, that's your attacks, that's your counterattacks. So there's a lot of value you can get from that. But for as deep as you have to get into the tree, I would say these other abilities would be more valuable to you. Okay. Here we have Double-Edged Sword. Increases damage dealt to barbarian and other neutral units by 5%, but also increases damage taken from these units by 5%. So that'd be 15%. Enhances healing effects received by troops by 5%. Alright, so this is where it's kind of a double-edged sword. When you have a commander like Boudica, like Lohar, or even if you're using them as a pair in your barbarian hunting, they have heals built into their skills. Let's see here with Boudica, right here. She gives a healing factor of 300, and that happens whenever a skill is used. All right, that's not just hers; that's also the secondaries. So you're going to get in the 2 seconds after the active skill is used, you're going to get a healing factor at my current level of 600 or 800 once that's tapped out. That's a lot of healing. If you go over here to Lohar, Lohar actually has 2 heals. His first is off his primary ability, alright, and that's going to be a 450 healing factor. So if you have him behind Boudica, then you're going to get that 450 when he uses his, plus the 400 from hers. So that's 850 healing factor just from this one ability when it's tied in with her as the primary. You combine that in with this 4th ability here. Lohar heals a portion of slightly wounded units after leaving battle, so a healing factor of 700. These guys are not the best healers in the game. These are just regular Peacekeepers. And so if you do, say, Cleopatra, for instance, who's rocking that healing factor of 400 in a huge AoE, right? You can get some real amazing value by combining your armies in a way that allows you to take advantage of that healing. And to kind of explain what that amounts to, you'll see that it says slightly wounded troops. You see here. Lohar's is the best here. Okay, slightly wounded troops. When you go into fighting, you have 4 types of units. You have your standing units, the regular undamaged. You have your slightly wounded. Those units actually stay with the army. Alright? And so what happens is, if you heal, those are the ones that are going to get healed. If there's more than that, you'll take the severely wounded. Those immediately go to your base and can be healed at the hospital. So they're gone from the march. They just immediately go to back to the base and get healed up there via normal healing method. The final is dead. Dead is just that. They're dead. There's no healing them. There's no bringing them back. You have to retrain troops. So whenever you're in a situation where you're in combat, you want to take advantage of that slightly wounded unit's healing to give you that sustainability on the field. Because when you're going out and about, you can do that chain combat. And what I mean by chain combat is, let's see here, there she is. If I take her and I attack this unit, because she has points into her talent tree, you can see that I did not make the mistake that I made with Boudica. You can see that she's going to go and get that 10 action point reduction. So the first one she fights is going to be at 40 action points instead of 50. After that, however, if she does not go back to base before she kills the next barbarian, each barbarian after that until she gets to base is going to be 2 action points less to fight. So if I fight these guys right here, that's going to be 40 action points. I come over here and I fight these guys are going to be 38 action points. So for these 2 kills, it'll cost me 78 action points. That'll go all the way down an additional 10 per unit. So what happens is 40, 38, 36, 34, 32, 30. And then this one right here would be 30 as well, etc., etc. And so what happens is you can get from that 50 action point starting point, 10 points with talents, and then an additional 10 points with chaining. So when you're doing those chains, you can really increase your overall value when you're killing barbarians when it comes to that action point cost. So keep that in mind when you're out there, because this is a resource, your action points right here, the same way that this is a resource. In fact, since getting resources doesn't cost you action points, there is an argument to be made that this is actually more valuable in many situations as far as being able to play the game. So keep that in mind. It's really easy to overlook that. You get into the game and you're like, alright, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kill these big guys. I'm going to go ahead and take them all out. But we're going to go to my mail real quick. I'm going to go to reports. We're going to go right here. Okay. So now keep in mind that these numbers are not going to be the same for everybody, because I have extra experience equipment, extra experience talents, and then both of these give bonuses to experience in their skills. So what I'm doing here is I'm maxing the amount of experience that I'm gaining per fight. This is a level 16 barbarian that gave me almost 6,000 experience points split between these 2 commanders, as well as an additional 1.6 thousand experience points in books. So altogether, what we're looking at here is, well, that's 5,800, and then you add in another 1,600, you're looking at 7.4 thousand experience points for this one fight. Alright? Now granted, it's split up very specifically. It's going to her, it's going to him, and then I have 1,600 experience points that I can spend on any commander I wish. But if you look at this right here, we're going to go ahead and take a peek. Yeah, this is as good as any. So, heals, 3,473. Slightly wounded, 9,785. This was, I believe, the 8th or 9th in the chain. And if you look here, you can see that I was just basically clearing an area. But I believe it started right here. Nope, further deep. And the way that I'm telling how far in it was is by looking at the troops. 110,000. Oh, there we go. So 125,000. Nope, 147,000. So this was the first barbarian in that chain that I started with. And then I went here. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 barbarians chained. So after that first 5, that only cost me 30 action points apiece. And then you can see how high value that becomes, right? Go right here. So with my very first one, remember that previous one got me 7,400 experience, that level 16. A level 21 is not that much better, right? So we're looking at 6 plus 7.6 thousand experience points. That would be 9.7 thousand experience points. I guess that is pretty substantial. Alright, but a level 21, if you look at I did 12,000 in heals. I lost 35,000 troops in that fight, right? So what it is basically you take this number, subtract this number, and get it from this, you get your remaining. Alright, so you go to the next one, 10,000 heals, 28,000 slightly wounded. When you take that healing into factor, the value of these fights gets really big really fast. And so that's just something you want to keep in mind, is that you're able to really keep your guys on the field, and by keeping your guys on the field, you're going to be able to get more experience faster. And by faster, I don't just mean in a short period of time, like a 10-minute, 15-minute period of time, but I mean you only have so many action points a day without using items to boost it. So when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you get the most value out of those action points, because eventually you will run out of them, right? So keep that in mind. Now if we go back here, and I will kind of break down, I think she's probably my best skill point breakdown, and we kind of talked about her when it came to the rage engine in the previous video. So you already have an idea of what's going on here. You see that we have the rage generation from from normal attacks. We have the rage generation whenever a skill is used. And then over here, reduction of action points, extra experience points, extra loot. Whenever she's attacked, extra rage for more rage engine. So this is how I like to build my commanders. The only thing that this commander is really missing is march speed, so that I can get where I need to go faster. Alright, and there's a couple of points in here that make her a little faster than the average, but when it all comes down to it, she doesn't have anything major going into that particular category of play. So priorities for your Peacekeeper should be finding a way to use the least amount of action points to kill the most amount of barbarians. And I will make a video in the future about how to properly chain, how to AoE farm, how to double up on barbarians for events, because you might think, why would I want to take 2 armies against 1 barbarian if I can kill it with 1? You were just telling me that the action point cost is a big deal. Well, we'll get into that, but the short answer is they both get the same amount of experience points. So if you're wanting to level up 4 commanders at the same time, you can keep your action point total down for the amount of experience that you're generating from it. And we'll go into that, like I said, in another video in the future. I would expect it probably within the week. I have another one on gatherers that I'd like to do, because like I said, resources are king. And you really want to take as much advantage of that as possible. Alright, so one of the reasons that I use the commanders that I do, I use them for different things. If I'm going to go out and I'm going to do a lot of chaining, I'm going to set Boudica as my primary. And the reason that I'm going to do that is because she's going to get the... Actually, it's just because she's higher level at the moment. Long run, though, I want this support tree. Reason for that is right here. Enhances healing effects received by troops by 9%. So you still get that rage generation that you would get with Boudica or with a skill talent, right? And you're also going to be able to access that peacekeeping tree. In fact, I would say he's probably my best setup commander for leading them. You're going to get that peacekeeping tree, you're going to get that rage generation, but you're also going to get that healing, right? So when I send my guys out into battle, if he's in the front and she's in the back, her abilities and her skills and his skills are both going to work. Only the primary's talents are going to work. So if I'm going out there and I want to do as much damage as I possibly can, as quickly as possible, for instance, if I'm going against force, Boudica is a fantastic choice for me with the way I have her talent set up. But if I'm trying to chain, then I want to swap that over and let Lohar run that command. If I want to do AoE farming, I have a couple of different options. I can either go ahead and use Ethelfled as the primary commander, and she's got both the support tree and the peacekeeping tree. She needs this right here. But she doesn't have any heals individually. So it's not as high value as it is on Lohar, who has 2 heals. Alright. So if I'm going to go out and I'm going to do AoE farming, I can either throw her in the front and put another commander that's going to have either a heavy hitting active skill or a straight up heal like you would get from, say, Cleopatra. A buff if I'm doing it in a group, if I'm taking multiple marches or armies out on the field. An Ethelfled Cleopatra combination is not a bad plan. You're going to be able to get her AoE heal frequently, and you're going to get her AoE damage. You follow that up with these two right here and let them be the primary. By that I mean they hit first. And you're going to get a lot of heals from him. You're going to get a lot of secondary or smaller heals from her. They're going to, and then Ethelfled and Cleo are going to bring in more fighters, more barbarians into that fight, and then heal everybody in the four-part group. So just a couple of things to really take into consideration. I always do that. The talent tree that you're getting here, although there are a lot of great abilities back here, it's not as high value as you might initially think. Like this one right here, for instance. That's a 9% boost to your march speed. That is really solid. And ultimately, that was where I was going. But when you compare it to your rage engine, right? You should get, I would say, this first, this second. Once you have these two, depending on how your gathering commanders are, and there will be a video in the next couple days about that, depending on how your gathering commanders are, either go right into this and stop, then start your rage engine, or go ahead and just skip this until your rage engine is complete. So you would get these two right here, so it'd be level 1, level 4, sorry, that'd be level 5, level 8, level 11, and then you'd be done with your peacekeeping tree until after you had already got your rage engine going. So keep that in mind when you're putting together your marches, that you want to get this extra value from each fight, and you want to take advantage of the different ways to do combat when you're out on the field. And there's a lot of different things that you can do on the field to really keep that value per action point up. And in the future, in one of the longer videos that I'll make, we're going to go in depth on the different styles of combat, like I said earlier. So I'm trying to keep these videos to short increments so that you guys are going to be able to get in there, get the information, and then get into the game. We don't all have all day long to play the game, so I want you guys to get as much information as you can in a short period of time. And then later on down the line, I might come in and kind of clean these up and make them a little bit fancier. But right now, it's all about teaching the fundamentals. If you want fancy and you want pretty and you want in-game content information, once again, I highly recommend Chizgul. I recommend Wick. Both of those guys are fantastic for that information, but they really don't have a lot of content out there for this before you're 10 million or as you're leveling your guys up. They'll tell you what commanders you should level up, which is great if you can get them. But for me, I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to take who you have and make those guys work for you. So no matter what, you're always going to have a Peacekeeper. It's the very first commander you get after your nation commander, is this one right here. So she's already set up just like I recommend. The peacekeeping and the skill, or peacekeeping and support would be my other choice if I had it, right? But because I happen to get Boudica and I happen to get Lohar with my first alliance, there was just an amazing kill event that we managed to pull through. I was able to just go ahead and skip past her. But maybe you can't. Maybe you don't get that lucky. Maybe you end up catching a bunch of commanders that, are going to have more value later on. Maybe you've got Belisarius. Maybe you've got Joan of Arc. Maybe you've got Kusunoki. And these are great commanders for the epic tier. But they're not going to be able to provide that same level as you would get with a Peacekeeper skill or a Peacekeeper support. Alright? Belisarius would be, out of those three, would be the closest one for it, in my opinion. If I had these three commanders and that's all I had, he would be my Barbarian Hunter. And that's a demonstration of how important that peacekeeping tree is. Alright? He's got some good good skills, but this right here, it doesn't matter how amazing your guy's abilities are if he can't use them because he doesn't have the action points. Alright, so keep that in mind. It's not about how much power you have, it's about how much power you can use. Alright, so keep that in mind when you're putting together your marches, and with that, I'm going to say you guys have a great day, good hunting, and I'll see you out there in the game.